Tuesday, Aidan Hutchinson is expected to be the number one pick by a lot of people that follow the draft. I think it might be a mistake, and I'll tell you why here on this episode of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you guys for joining us again here on Locked On Jaguars and making us your first listen of the day. I am Tony Wiggins, your host of Locked On Jaguars, here every single day, your team every day, and we thank you for joining us. Also, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Rock Auto. That's right. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. We're going to do a deep dive today, a little bit of a deep dive, and we're going to go against the grain a little bit. Everyone and their brother says that Aidan Hutchinson is and should be the number one pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars, your Jacksonville Jaguars. In fact, I reported 2 months ago that someone sent me a message and said that if the draft was today, the Jags would take Aidan Hutchinson, and that comes from a very, very reliable source, someone who had boots on the ground in the building last year and would absolutely know what their plans were. That being said, I want to tell you, this is not a T-Wig is bashing Aidan Hutchinson show. That's not what this is. It's not what I'm going to do. I just think when someone is projected to be the first overall pick for a franchise that needs an impact and that needs it to absolutely matter, I really believe you want to make it work and you want it to count. This doesn't mean that I think Aidan Hutchinson will not be a good football player in the NFL. This means that I don't think Aidan Hutchinson is going to have the best career. And I think the Jaguars have to pick the guy that's going to have the best career in order for this franchise to move forward and be in a positive situation. And I got several reasons for that. I will tell you this, though, that I saw this morning. I forgot who reported it, but I know where I got it from. I got it from a man, Jordan Lugo, who does a good job covering the team, that Arden Key is visiting the Jaguars. Now, that could be a depth move. It could also be a situation where they need a third pass rusher like most teams do, and they're going to give a hard look-see to a guy that had 6.5 sacks last year. But it also could be a coincidence that it came a day after news came out that Aidan Hutchinson is canceling his one-on-one workout with the Jaguars. And most people are saying that's a smart decision because of the injury that happened to Aidan's college teammate, David Ajabo. But any other situation in any other time, this would be looked at, with scrutiny as to why doesn't he want to work out? I'll give you a perfect example. The guy that I had number one with the bullet on that side of the ball anyway, because everyone knows how I feel about Evan Neal. The guy that I had number one, Kayvon Thibodeau, did the important workouts at the combine. He bench pressed at the combine, which is significant, and we'll discuss that because Aidan Hutchinson did not. He ran the 40 time with a very good time. He did the vertical jump. And anything else, I think he'll probably do in his private workout. The difference between those two guys, and I've said this in the past, in my opinion, I think Kayvon Thibodeau is getting the Micah Parsons treatment. Guy's always been a 5-star at everything. And then people are going to say, well, the production didn't match, or it seems like. And the one that kills me is, well, you don't know how he's going to respond once he gets money. That's a little coded. And I hate when African-Americans say it about other African-Americans because it's really coded as if this guy's going to get money and all of a sudden turn into a guy who's not professional. I also don't know what qualifies any of us to be able to determine how a guy's going to play after he gets money. I'll say that about anybody, okay, regardless of where you come from. But it seems like it always comes from people that look like me that say that about other black athletes. So that bothers me a little bit. Back to Hutchinson. It's really, really simple. You make sort of big deals about stuff that, okay, you don't want to like cherry pick, and you don't want to just nickel and dime a brother through the process, right? So the one thing for me is I did not know that Aidan Hutchinson was that tall. I did not know that he was damn near 6'7". Okay. So that shocked me a little bit, and it kind of made me change my tune about Aidan Hutchinson a little bit, because he was a little bit more of a jumbo athlete than were given credit to believe. I was told, this whole time that kid was like 6'4", that he was the same height as Thibodeau and a lot of these other guys, and it's just not true, right? So let me look at his career stats for you, and because we love to do career stats in backwards order. Because with Thibodeau, they'll say, okay, he was number one with a bullet this year, but then he played a little bit. He missed some games and played with injuries, and still ended up with, I think, like seven or some odd sacks in a limited amount of time. Aidan Hutchinson, prior to this past season, Aidan Hutchinson played 22 games, and prior to this past season, Aidan Hutchinson had 3.5 sacks for his entire career at Michigan. I said it, I'll repeat it. Now, he only played 2 games as a junior, okay? He only played 2 games as a junior, so it's a little bit unfair to characterize, a whole bunch of stuff with COVID was going on, but so it's a little bit unfair to characterize that season as, a full season. But as a freshman, he had 0 sacks. As a sophomore, he had 3.5 sacks. Didn't have any in 2020 because of the abbreviated season. He only played 2 games. Played 14 games last year, had 14 sacks. I don't know why we're so into right nowism that we just switch that, and that doesn't bring a little bit of a red flag, because it does for me. On the other hand, I'm going to go and look at Kayvon Thibodeau's stats here. And I know numbers don't tell the whole story about everything. We know that. And, I always say numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole truth. And I'm going to be very consistent with that today. So I know it looks like I'm not paying attention to you guys, but I am. I'm just actually pulling up some stats here. And I really am one of the people that cannot walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. So please forgive me. But I think this is a very important draft pick for the Jags. It is an extremely important draft pick for the Jags. So with Kayvon Thibodeau, you're looking at 19 sacks in 3 years. 9 as a freshman, 3.5 a season in 2020, the abbreviated COVID year, and 7 last year in 10 games. Okay? That's 30 games, 19 sacks. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because of a viral video that I saw that amazed me, that it's getting some attention. If you go back and look at this video of Aidan Hutchinson bench pressing at his workout, and then go down and click quote tweets, look at the former athletes and the former football players and the strength and conditioning coaches that tell you this is absolutely bogus. So out of all the drills that Hutchinson did at the combine, he didn't do the bench press. And then when he does the bench press, he basically has a guy helping him do it to 28 reps. So don't be tricked and don't be fooled. What I think they're going to do and what I think they should do are 2 different things. Do I think he's going to be a good player? Sure. I think he'll be a good, solid player in the NFL. One of the problems I have is I can't find a comp. You tell me when the last time somebody 6'7", 265 pounds played at defensive end or stand up outside linebacker in space. Tell me the last time you saw somebody do that and end up being successful. And don't tell me J.J. Watt, because J.J. Watt's almost 290 pounds if he's not 290, at about 6'5", 6'6", and he plays inside and outside. At 270 pounds, you're not playing inside in the NFL. I'm going to compare something in segment 2. And what I'm going to compare in segment 2 is boxing. And I do this often when I talk about the NFL. It is totally different when somebody punches you in the face. And in the NFL, it's exactly what they do. They punch you in the face. I'm going to give you my history about why I use that analogy. I'm also going to tell you why I think the Jaguars would be making a mistake with Aidan Hutchinson. I'll get more into that. And we'll do it in segment 2 here on Locked On Jaguars. But I first have to tell you where you need to be going if you're going to make wagers on sports, and that's betonline.net. It's that time of year again, in college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. And as you saw this last week, these kids are giving it everything that they absolutely have to win these games. Now, from all the latest odds, contests, player props, BetOnline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is a continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. So head to the website today and use your mobile device to sign up to learn about the trends and action. BetOnline is where the game starts. I know it's where it starts for me, and you need to make it start there for you also, because there is no place better to make your wagers than BetOnline.net. And we thank you. I'm gonna stop sucking my teeth and doing that lip pop and tasting my words. Quit doing it. My mama told me you keep popping your lips, and I hear it. So I'm gonna work on doing that. Okay. But I'm not gonna stop being your first listen every day, and I hope you don't stop, because I really, really appreciate you here at Locked On Jaguars. I'm doing this deep dive into Aidan Hutchinson, and if you guys, I know somebody wants to use the word that I'm a hater. I know somebody wants to probably take it somewhere else. If you're going to be the number one pick, your resume and your whatever it is you bring to the table needs to be able to stand up to stuff like this. So this is very important for Jaguar fans. This is super, super important for Jaguar fans. And I know if he is the one that they call when he walks across that stage, everyone is going to fall in love with him, and we're going to root for him to do the best. And I'm going to do the same thing. I don't care about being right. I just have to be honest with you beforehand. I think it'll be a problem because I don't think Aidan Hutchinson is going to be a superstar. And when you pick first, you need a superstar. I think Aidan Hutchinson is an extremely safe pick. The Raiders made a safe pick a few years back when they took a defensive end from Clemson at number 4. Josh Allen was sort of a safe pick with the Jaguars because they probably didn't expect him to be there. But I do have knowledge, and I believe that there's nobody in that building right now that thinks Josh Allen is an alpha pass rusher. They think he's a number 2. I don't think Aidan Hutchinson is a number 1 that's going to complement Josh Allen as a number 2. Aidan Hutchinson's best football will probably be with his hand in the dirt. And unless the Jaguars are running a philosophical defense that I don't know about, they're going to have to stand him up and play in space. And folks will look at his workout, those drills, and confuse that with actual football and change the direction as opposed to watching his tape. Now, I've been wrong about guys before, but I've argued some pro players. Steve White, who I don't know if he still does, he used to write for SB Nation, longtime Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Me and Steve went back and forth about Myles Garrett. I don't think he was as high on Garrett. He didn't say he wasn't going to be good, but I was like, I know you breaking it down because you played the sport, but I'm telling you he's going to be good. And I think it went along the lines of, well, you're just not going to bully people. And Steve was looking at more of a technique stuff. I was just looking at the fact that the dude's just an absolute monster of an athlete, and you guys have seen that and know how much of a monster Myles Garrett is, not just in basketball or whatever. I was just saying, yeah, if there's one person that can just get away with not having great technique and just bully people, that's him. And I was right. So I was a little bit wrong about Jadeveon Clowney. And see, Clowney is what, even though he's a good player, he kind of reminds me, this is what this reminds me of. This reminds me of that situation where when you look at Hutchinson, you see all this effort and you see all of this stuff, and that's great. But that gets you only so far in the NFL. In the NFL, it's just about you and the dude on the other side. That's it. That's it. The talent, the twitchiness, the football instincts, all of these things. I think the kid from Oregon's better. And that's just a hill that I'm going to go on, even if he's not picked as high. People agree with me. Some scouts that I've talked to, former personnel people that I've talked to, people that write. I want you to go to these mock draft sites, and when they list their big boards and they start detailing people, listen to what they say. They say Thibodeau has the highest ceiling of anybody. You can stop right there. Now go back and look at and psychoanalyze NFL people. What do they always do? They draft for upside. All of these things are telling on themselves. I want the guy with the highest upside who also gives the effort, but I also want a guy who gives effort who also has that upside that they keep talking about. I'm telling you, this might be Micah Parsons 2.0. This might be that. This just might be that. And if you're a Jaguar fan, you just don't want to be on the bad end of it. I didn't like the bench press stuff. I thought the bench, out of all the drills you're not doing, and you don't do it, and then when you do it, you have somebody helping you, and instead of us getting, what are you hiding? I think from a personality standpoint, Aidan Hutchinson is about as Trent bulky as you're gonna get. I think people love. His dad played, all of this stuff, and he says the right thing, and he looks like the guy from Rocky 3, and he measured out better than I thought he would, and he ran well, and he did all of these great things. I can sit here and say the same thing for Travon Walker. So at Georgia, now listen, I want to do a real quick comparison. So I took up for Hutch when people kept talking about the Georgia tape. So I went back and I watched it, and yeah, Georgia did get the ball out on 3-step drops and ran, and Hutch, while he got pushed around a little bit, he actually did beat a couple of guys and turn the corner on like Jamari Saw. You guys are going to play in the NFL. So I'm not going to just use all of that. But I will tell you this. When people were talking about Georgia's defense and they were talking about Michigan's offensive line being the best offensive line in the country, you saw what happened. Those dudes battered those guys on the other side. When they reversed it and talked about Hutchinson playing against an SEC offensive line, you saw that too. Georgia's offensive line stood in the paint. Now, I saw Will Anderson have a great game against them in the SEC championship game, and then a good game in the finals. He showed up. The guy that most people think is going to be the number one pick next year and would be the number one pick this year if he was eligible. See, it's that kind of guy, the guy that leaves no question. He ain't disappearing. He leaves no. Will Anderson is the type of dude that should be the number one pick, and you shouldn't even be thinking about it. The only people that I hear people saying 2 years from now could be the best player in the league, I hear about Thibodeau, I hear about that Kyle Hamilton kid, and I hear about those two offensive linemen that people are saying that the Jaguars are not going to pick now because they have Cam Robinson at number one. And all I'm asking you to do, find me a 6'7", 270-pound defensive end is what they're picking him to play. He's not going to play 3 technique. He's not going to be inside on lightning packages. No, he's in space. Find me anyone built like that has been good in the NFL. By comparison, Clyde Simmons was 6'6.5", almost 6'7", but he was 300 pounds. Calais Campbell, 6'8", 290. Chris Canty, 6'7", 6'8", 295. Find me a 270-pound defensive end that's going to be able to play in space and disrupt the game that's 6'6" and 5'8", and tell me when they've ever been good. That's it. That's it. And if I got off this computer right now and got on the phone, and I called some of these same people that have been scouts, that have been personnel people in the NFL, that have been pro personnel people in the NFL, that have played the position in the NFL, and I asked them the question with total anonymity, you know what they're going to tell me? Hutchinson safe, you can't go wrong because kind of everybody thinks he's going to at least be solid. They don't believe he's going to ever be a bust. He's going to be a good player. He's going to earn a lot of money in the league. Now, I ask him about Thibodeau. You know what they tell me? Got the highest ceiling of anybody in the draft. And only because he was hurt last year and it looked like he may have taken a little bit of time off or was being really careful, that may be a little bit of a red flag. I don't want to hear that. What do you think he's going to be? They say, I think he's going to be a superstar. That's just me. Third and final segment. I want to tell you what I think is going to happen. You already know what I think is going to happen. I think the Jaguars are going to take Hutchinson. I'm going to tell you, though, what could probably compel them not to take Aidan Hutchinson. Do they have someone or something in the building or something brewing that could make them shy away from Aidan Hutchinson, the prospect. I'll tell you that in just a second. After I tell you about rockauto.com, man, rockauto.com is the absolute truth. You want to save time and money when using rockauto.com. You don't want to stand up in one of these chain stores while the little dude behind the counter doesn't know what he's looking for. And then he secretly went and called somebody and ordered it. He says, yeah, they're pulling the part in the back. You pay attention, there's a little truck that's going to drive up that's going to bring you your part, right? Generic, not good. You don't need to do it. They're going to ask you a bunch of questions you don't know. RockAuto.com, they won't. All you got to do is get on your laptop, type it up, go to rockauto.com. In a box, they're going to ask you, how did you hear about us? Make sure you put Locked On sent you so that they know your family, and family takes care of family. Now, they have everything you could ever need, from brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet, right? So make sure you go to rockauto.com for all of your car parts. There's nothing more safe than when you have family members that are away in school or away in the military, that you make sure that they have the proper parts on their car. See all the parts available for your car or truck at rockauto.com, because they have amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need. It's rockauto.com. Thank you guys once again for making us your first listen. Your second listen should be on the NFL YouTube page. Make sure you tune in Monday through Friday. You'll see an episode from me and my man James Rapine tomorrow. But every day there's somebody different from around the country on the Locked On Podcast Network that really gives you great organic shows. So make sure you subscribe and tune in to the Locked On YouTube page. This is not beat up on Aidan Hutchinson Day. This is, I'm not going to keep comparing them to white guys either. Is Aidan Hutchinson going to be Ryan Kerrigan? Is Aidan Hutchinson going to be Jason Pierre-Paul? Jason Pierre-Paul, it might be a little bit of a comp because he's another tall, 6'5.5" guy. But even Jason Pierre-Paul runs in the 280-pound range and was super, super athletic, doing backflips. So if you tell me he's going to be Jason Pierre-Paul, I'd say he's going to have a good career. And I'd still tell you he's not worth the number one pick. Okay? Period, point blank. So much that you guys are actually quote tweeting and answering a question, would you trade the number one overall pick for Kyle Pitts? And everybody, I see all these Jaguar fans going, yes, yes, yes. So that means you're not even sold on it. So it's okay for me to put the microscope and scrutinize. If you guys can't handle this without thinking I'm hating, then y'all really don't believe that kid should be number one either. 1 year of production bothers me because I used to hear Mike Tomlin say all the time, it's about your body of work. He had 2 years where he had 0 sacks. He's also a 4-year kid, 4 years, not 3, going number one in the draft, a true senior now, 4 years. I don't know if he's a true senior because of the COVID year. They probably gave everybody an extra year, but he was on that campus for 4 years. 4. Okay. I'm just saying, same amount of sacks as the other guy who was on campus for 3 years. And Mike Tomlin said that they always look at a body of work. Right now, ism and easy scouting is to look at the very last thing you saw because it gives you a lasting impression. So if that's the case, the last thing I saw is a guy getting help on the bench press. Then I try to remember anybody built like that, that's the number one player. And he could be somebody new. He could be this new freak. Now, see, Detroit could make that mistake because I'm not saying that all Lions fans are Michigan fans because a lot of people in Michigan like Michigan State. But I will tell you that most Michigan fans, I'm not going out on a limb here when I say most Michigan fans are Detroit Lions fans if they like NFL teams. And if that's the case, especially in that state, then if they want him to fit in with their we're going to bite everybody's kneecap program up there, and then he just turned out to be as average as the day is long, or he's just okay and he's safe, then that's fine. That's fine for them. Nobody's going to get mad at him. But here in Jacksonville, Florida, they will eat him alive if he is not a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro about year 3. They do it to Josh Allen right now, because he hasn't played up to what people believe the standards are over the last 2 years. Hell, they basically talk crap about a dude that had 8.5 sacks. He's only one of 6 people in Yannick Ngakoue to have 8.5 sacks the first 6 years of his career. He's getting traded and moved around a lot. And people can say that means people don't want him, but as long as you keep getting traded, that means somebody does, right? So I just don't want the Jaguars to lose again. I don't want, and what I mean lose, I'm not talking about their record. I'm just talking about to not get nice things. When you are in the position to get nice things, you should end up with nice things. I don't want this to be another thing for the Jaguars that's safe. I think playing it safe gets you in trouble. I think when someone is the number one player in the draft, they need to be a superstar. Luke Jokel was safe. I don't want that anymore for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I want a guy that's going to come in here and turn this place upside down, and people are going to scream his names and scream his name. And I'm talking about not just because, like with some other people. I mean, really, really come in here and make a whole bunch of noise. And it doesn't have to be an edge rusher. It could very well be an offensive lineman. And you guys know how I feel about that. I always said you don't take them early. Take them in the second and third round and develop them, because there's a track record of that happening too, by the way. But I always thought you get guys to get sacks, touchdowns, or picks with that first overall pick. And I still will stand by that to a certain degree. But I also believe that Trevor Lawrence is too important for this team to not make sure that he is adequate, more than adequately. That the level of protection you have for Trevor is superfluous, right? So that's a debate for another story, another day. But right now, I keep trying with Aidan Hutchinson as bad as I want to, because I want to be right too. I want to be able to look back and say, I can't do it. In all honesty, y'all, I keep trying to make myself believe that he is worth the number one pick. And for some reason, I absolutely cannot. I could be wrong. I just can't come to the conclusion that he's the number one pick in the draft. Maybe I need to go look at the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, and they could explain to me, because my man Ryan Tracy and Eric Crocker, who's a former NFL player, they break it down like nobody else can. It's daily. It's a daily podcast just like this one. You can make that your second listen of the day. Lock in, man. Check in with those guys. Make sure you find them wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, and subscribe to that page. I'm trying. Arden Key comes in. It's between him and Detroit. Maybe if the Jaguars sign Arden Key, keep Detroit from getting a pass rusher, Detroit will get desperate and want to swap those two picks and give the Jaguars the 32nd pick in the first round, or the second pick in the second round, just for a little swap, and the Jaguars can get the guy that they want and let Aidan Hutchinson go on home. I keep trying to sell myself on him, and I just cannot do it. After the combine, I went back and looked at the tape a little bit further, and it's just not there for me. It's just not there. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my dive into Aidan Hutchinson. You guys tune in tomorrow. We'll bring it back like we always do here on Locked On Jaguars. Take care of each other. Until then, we'll